Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on KTV Primetime News Moment for the discussion of the night. Now, amidst the tough economic times in the country, Kenyans will now have to dig deeper into their pockets to meet their dailies. This follows the rollback of the fuel subsidies as announced by the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. And what does this mean for our economy moving forward? What's the viability of the plan to sustain the economy without the subsidies? What reprieve do Kenyans have? And what is the take of the OMCs in the supply of the product? That generally forms the basis of our discussion tonight. And joining me is Mr. Martin Chomba, who's the chairman of the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin, for dedicating your time for this discussion.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get the ball rolling. Now, the removal of the subsidies was an executive order that was given by the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, during his inauguration. So we'd want to know, as the OMCs, we understand that the subsidies were a form of a compensation to the marketers during the period in which these subsidies were in place. So how will this move really affect the marketers of this commodity, and will the business of supplying to it to the consumers be smooth and seamless?
I would want first of all to maybe explain that I'm the chairman of Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya, which is a group, an amalgamation of small-scale traders who are not affiliated to the OMCs. When you talk about OMCs, you're talking about the multinationals. So, and these are the people that these are actually either the individual companies or consortiums of the oil marketers across the country. And when we talk about marketers, there's a difference between the marketers and the distributor. Distributors are the people who are having the retail points, and then we have the marketers, the people who import. Having said that, I would say that what has happened is the removal of the subsidy is the best thing that could have happened to this country, because of one, the economic models or theories that are applicable in a capitalism economy do not allow for the subsidy the way it was crafted in this country. Why do I say that? I'm saying that because if you look at what has been happening is we have one end of the pipe, a capitalist system, and that is where we source the product competitively through something we call the open tender system. But then along the distribution value chain, we introduce a command economy. I am not a very good student of economics, but I know that you cannot mix those two theories and end up with anything sustainable for the economy or for the mwananchi. And that has created the mess that we have had. And I'm glad that in as much as it appears like lifting of the subsidy is subjecting the common person to some problems in terms of the rising cost of living, it is going to level the ground, and everybody will be able to operate in a way that the forces of market and demand, supply and demand applies. And as such, nobody will be taken out of the market in an undue and a forced manner, so to speak.
All right. Now, it's impressive, actually, Mr. Martin, that you've talked about the different levels of, the marketers of this product. You now told us about the OMCs as the big players. I don't know whether it will be right to term them as the multinationals. And then, of course, we have also the small players who retail it to the consumers directly. So this initiative that was given, the directive that was given by the president of removing the subsidies. So you said it is the best thing that probably would have happened. It's the best thing that will have happened in this sector. So these the good impacts of this, are they felt across all the sellers of this product, right from the AMCs to the small players as well?
Okay, thank you very much for that, because I think this is where a lot of people may not understand what has been happening. I may want to take 2 or 3 seconds and explain this. This model of subsidy that we have had in this country was introduced way back in April last year.
Yes.
And it was not supposed to be a subsidy per se. It was supposed to be a regularization of price in a way that the government is able to cushion mwananchi. Then what happened is, when this was set roaring by the government, the EPRA, the EPRA agency that is tasked with the pricing of petroleum commodity in this country, was persuaded by the multinationals, the importers, that they have to remove something, a component within the pricing regime called the wholesale cap. The importance of the wholesale cap in the pricing regime is to safeguard the people that are not franchised, the independent dealers, such that when they go to get this product from the multinational, the depots, they have a secured margin.
Right.
So when this was removed, then what that meant is that they were thrown under the bus literally, because what has been happening is that the multinationals, deliberately or by default, they have been squeezing the margins of these retailers to an extent that if you do a spot check, you realize about over a third of these people have closed their businesses so far. And those who are still working is because they don't have anything else to do and they have to just hang in there. So when I talk about this being the best thing that would happen, it will be the best for multinational. Why? In as much as their profits will go down, they'll not have to run to get capitalized, because as you know, our business is highly capitalized, and as such, you have to get a very good credit lines that can finance that. So that cost of financing will go down, because, and then again, they will revert to their normal market share. Then the people that had closed their businesses owing to squeezed margins, they will come back. And when these come back, they will stimulate the economy, because they directly or indirectly, we employ over 2 million people in this country.
Yes.
And when those people are stimulated from the bottom, then we expect a ripple effect in that there will be a wider interaction of business, and this will create even the taxes that are needful to subsidize, other than the model that we have been having, where the subsidy benefits do not go through the whole value chain, that it's left up somewhere with the multinationals, and then the other group of people dies a natural death.
All right. Impressive. Now, maybe just on a light note, I'll just give you this question from a layman perspective, because we get it from the layman, thoughts in the ground, where people are saying that if the price of petrol has increased by 20 shillings, when initially the subsidy was there, it was subsidizing this price of petrol per liter for about 59 shillings. So some people have been laying allegations that probably this subsidy, as you've mentioned, that it used to probably mostly benefit the big players, the multinationals. So could it be that it was also, because if you do the difference in the price increase, 20 shillings vis-a-vis the 59 shillings, that some of this cash was also used to fund probably private people in this sector as well?
Okay, I've also had that story go around, and I am one person who like to give credit where the credit is due, and probably I may not have all the data, but from my perspective, what I understand is the pricing, the subsidy varies from time to time. And what do I mean? I mean that the product that we receive in this country is usually priced depending on the arrivals of the vessels that come into the country.
Right.
So that's why you realize at some point, EPRA will say we are subsidizing 50-something shillings, and at this time they were saying we were supposed to subsidize about 40 shillings on diesel, 20-something shillings on super, and another 40, maybe 40 or so on IK, what we call illuminating kerosene, such that when they decided to remove the cap, they removed everything for super and subsidized 20 shillings on diesel and another 20 shillings on kerosene. So what happens is the difference between the pricing of the product that we are pricing at this time, because if you look at what is happening in the international market, the prices have started plummeting.
Right.
We are now doing about $90-something per barrel, and sometimes 80-something, all way from the highs of $120 per barrel. So you realize that when we were receiving crudes and products maybe that were priced in maybe May or June, the prices were very high there, and the kind of the amount being subsidized was also high.
Yes.
So the product that we have today, we are subsidizing lesser. So that could be the difference that has played.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's noteworthy that in July, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, had given a directive that Kenya should scrap off the fuel subsidy by October. So even if we are seeing it, of course, coming into play in September 15th, it's probably just coming, 15 days earlier than what the IMF had, the IMF had given, the directive that IMF had given. And in this review, there was I'm told it was to realign fuel prices to the global fuel price and for the public interest. So what role does the IMF play in our fuel prices? Because if they are giving a directive that we should be removing our fuel subsidies by October, so what role exactly do they play when it comes to how we conduct business here and in the fuel sector as well?
If I remember my international relations classes well, I will say that Bretton institutions, which IMF is one of them, they largely interested with promoting capitalism in the form of market models. And as you may have realized, is that, as I explained earlier, fuel subsidy model that we have in Kenya so far is not a model that is based on any theory. It is not sustainable. You cannot explain it with any economic theory that is out there, because whereas a subsidy is an economic tool that governments and other agencies use to cushion the common people from probably market shocks and high prices, you don't want to do that while at it killing the SMEs, because this is what has been happening. So IMF demanding that Kenya, as a member of a free world and a capitalist state, to exemplify the model of forces of demand and supply, means that Kenya will align with other countries across the world. We have seen people in all other countries, including the very stable Scandinavian countries, people protesting that the prices are very high.
Sure.
This has happened in US and UK, and we have not had their government try to introduce the kind of model that we have. Why? Because when you do that, you upset other tributaries to the economy who depend on the energy and petroleum kind of the spine that feeds to these other tributaries. So what if you distort that, you end up killing so many. We know of theories like protectionism and mercantilism, which happen to protect local industries. You cannot apply subsidy while at the same time killing the people that you are trying to stimulate in terms of economy. I've been telling people in layman's language that what this subsidy was doing, if I were to give you an example, is like you today, say you have a home, you are the man of the home, you pay the school fees for your kids, and you also feed them. So what you're telling them is the money that you had kept for feeding them, you are going to use it for school fees, you're going to use it to feed them today. But you know, at the end of the day, you'll still have to get the money for school fees.
Sure.
Why am I saying this, Mr. Wonde? The government has nowhere to get their taxes from. They get taxes from the people. Sure. They collect taxes from their citizens. So it doesn't matter which sector they subsidize. The money they are using to subsidize, they will still get those taxes from the people. And so there is no use of doing that in the guise of subsidy, whereas you're killing the SMEs. Right. And these SMEs are the people, are the families, are the fathers and the mothers of the people you're trying to subsidize. So at the end of the day, it becomes a zero-sum game.
All right. That's so impressive. Now, Mr. Chomba, during the campaigns, because you are seeing the new regime that is coming to governance, of course now with the Dr. William Samuel Ruto at the helm, you made a lot of promises to Kenyans, saying that his government will ensure that they lower the cost of living, which is a big challenge. It's really a big economic problems on our block. So Well, we are seeing, of course, now with the scrapping of this fuel subsidy, the ripple effects of this will be that the basic commodities, the prices of basic commodities will certainly go up. But you, in explaining, of course, how the scrapping off of the subsidy will be helping us is that probably we'll have a lot of taxes for ourselves, which will foster development. But really, the promise that was made by William Ruto, how fast will he be able to achieve it so that the common mwananchi will be able to realize that indeed the president has kept his word? He's not just raised the cost of living for us, but we are enjoying this because now we have a lot of taxes for ourselves that could foster developments in different sectors.
Thank you for that. First of all, it is important to note that it will be not true to say that the current president has raised the prices, or the cost of living. And this is because of what I've just explained. You know what happened yesterday in terms of prices. It's only that he lifted the lead of something that people had trying to put down in a bid to probably deliver on some political expediencies. But the truth of the matter that this was long coming. It was for a long time not going to be tenable. For us, to the question what and how they are going to probably leave the promise of making sure that the cost of living is lowered, it is not a switch that I can guarantee you.
Sure.
But I want, for the avoidance of doubt, to probably just say that I subscribe to the kind of theory that the president has been giving, which we are calling the bottom-up economic model.
Yes.
And to me, the best way to stimulate this economy, and that's why I find myself attracted to that economic theory, that theory of development, where is what will happen is for this to be done, is that we must stimulate the businesses and make sure that we have as many people doing business as possible, many people moving money as possible, because the more people we have moving money through buying and selling, the more we are able to tax people, and the more we tax people, the way we are able to get development budget, and the more we are able to get money to even subsidize. You see, the difference, another question that's been flying to me today, and people have kept asking me, is that if we are doing that, if we are saying subsidy is bad, then why are we talking about subsidizing maize and such?
Right.
And I was telling them there's a difference between subsidizing fuel, the model that has been there that was killing SMEs. When you subsidize agriculture, you are not interfering with any one business. And when you subsidize agriculture and increase production, you have solved one of the biggest problems, because among the things that makes people look for money is to get food.
Sure.
So the minute that we have food, we get surplus. The money that we are using to get food, it becomes surplus in the economy.
So what about the essence that fuel is also being used to drive the production in agriculture?
You see, fuel now happens to be just a component within the whole value chain of the agricultural production. And as such, there are other components that we are able to subsidize. So if we subsidize other things and the fuel component is not subsidized, it may not have that big effect. And at the end of the day, when the production is high and people do not need money to buy food as expensive as they are buying today, then the surplus of what is left is able to go into other areas. And that is how we are able to raise the standard of living of the normal Kenyans. Because what was happening is the fuel subsidy was cobbling, it was getting a lot of money in terms of what taxes would have gone to development and other programs of the government to the detriment of development.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, of course, just to borrow from what you say, that the best way that we could grow this economy, rather the best way that could sum up the bottom-up economic model would be to stimulate business. Now, in terms of stimulating business, when we have subsidies, of course, in the components of production, like we've seen the president saying that the fertilizer, the prices of fertilizers will be subsidized. So what about earnings of people? Because we have a number of people, of course, who are employed, but when these important aspect of production, fuel, is not subsidized. The prices increase, the prices of basic commodities increase, but the earnings of people still remains at a point where they are. Don't you feel probably these effects will be, the pain should be felt deeply with the people who are not in business, probably people who rely on employment of this?
And basically the question you've just asked is the biggest reason as to why we must make sure that we raise the level of production in this country.
All right.
Because the level of production is what is bringing about even the worthless of the shilling against other currencies and against things like the inflation that we have experienced so far. Why do I say so? You see, one could be earning 20,000 shillings or 30,000 shillings, but they are buying unga at 200 shillings per packet. If they will be earning the same 30,000 shillings and buying unga at 100 shilling, their 30,000 will mean something different from what it means when they are buying it at 200.
Absolutely.
So that's why we are saying it is not even in increasing people's salary. In as much as it is good, it is not in itself the solution. Because even if somebody give you an increment of 100% and the cost of living increases with 120%, then it's a zero-sum game. So that's why we are urging and requesting that the president lives up to the model they have very espoused so well, and we have come to fall in love with. Live to that, to it, so that they can stimulate the growth of production and the growth of businesses from bottom up, where people are able to make a lot of interactions with trade, and that will raise the level of revenue, subsidize the production in terms of agriculture and other modes of production, and make sure that the cost of living goes down. When the cost of living go down, then the pressure on the earnings that we have will also go down, and that will give us some surplus. And very soon you'll start now seeing people even opting to go for holiday, things that have now remained a mirage and a luxury that people can't afford.
All right. Yeah. Now, because we have a government that we can say it's a government of its word, because some of the promises that the president made during the campaigns, we've seen him implement some of them, like on the very first day when he was being inaugurated as the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya, implementing some of the ideologies, some of the manifestos and the agendas that he had. So in what way, rather, because the government, the people rather, if they are to benefit from the sitting government, they have to align themselves to the ideologies of this government. So in trying to, in an attempt to live up to the dreams of this government, where we have trying to transform the country with the bottom-up economic model. So how best should people position themselves so that they can benefit from these economic models? So they opt to do a lot of business, go into the production side, so that they are, at the very bottom of this hierarchy, they can also rise up. So what's the best position for people who would want to benefit from this regime?
I would say that the question can be answered in two ways. It is it is a question that speaks both to the government and to the people.
Right.
The first thing I would urge the government. Let me start with the government. Is something that I've been telling my friends during the campaign. A lot of people that are friends with me, or we are connected, and they used to ask me, what are the parameters that you'll gauge to take your vote where you need to take it? And I used to tell them that the person that will promise me that they're not going to do local borrowing from the local banks, that person can have my vote in the pocket and stay with it. Because I was so sure that one of the biggest problems that we have had is when the government started competing with the common business person for money in the local commercial banks.
Right.
As an individual, you don't have the leverage of collateral that the government has.
Sure.
And as such, you are not considered by the commercial banks for loans as much as they would consider the government.
Yes.
And as such, you have found that has left businesses unable to get loans to continue on their expansion programs, and even sustainability. So we are urging the government to ensure that the economic bottom-up economic model will thrive. Amongst the thing is that if we need budgetary support, I would want to urge my president now to try and see other sources of finance, because this will free the local commercial banks, because banks are usually in the businesses of selling money, to try and look for other markets to sell their money.
Yes.
And this will find them in places where Wanjiku, Atieno, and Wasike are, and those people now are the people that will involved in the bottom-up economic model. If you remember this is what happened when the late President Mwai Kibaki took office, and you would find that even outside your studio, you'll get there are people who are trying to sell money.
Sure.
And that is what now stimulates the economy, because when people are able to borrow money from commercial banks, they engage in economic activity, and those economic activities generate taxes, and the ripple effect is that there is money circulating in the economy. The other facet is once the government has done that, it will provide enough leverage for people to borrow money.
Right.
And also, as they have promised to give us money in terms of the groupings that they have been talking about. So I would want also to urge the common person to realize that what I've seen so far, I have not met, I am not holding brief for the president and the government, but I am speaking from what I have seen. I once met him through a professional body called KEPSA, which we are a member of,
yes.
and they explained our issues, and the ease with which he understood what I was trying to explain left me feeling that he's the right man for the job.
Right.
And now what I would want to urge people, because of what he has demonstrated in the last 2 days, if it is anything to go by, I think it's high time to align ourselves with what his manifesto is talking about. If you are a young man out there, get yourself in a group. Try to do something so that when the Hustler Fund is established, because it appears that it's, the president was very keen on this Hustler Fund. When it is established, then you are in a position whereby you can take advantage of that, get some skills, or even if it's just a kidogo skills, to do business or to do something. I thank God that the government that has left invested a lot in the TVETs, and they have trained quite a number of people. So be among those people that are trained. Get yourself a skill such that when you receive the Hustler Fund and any other fund that may come to help the Wanjiku, then you can take advantage of it from a point of knowledge, so that it's not just people being given money and they're not even able to manage that money. So get yourself, align yourself in a position where the government can help you.
All right. That's so impressive, Mr. Chomba. Now, they've had the best thing is to align themselves, of course, to the manifestos of this government. They're saying of talking of the hustler funds. One condition was that they should be having themselves in groups, and they're doing something. And of course, it's good that you mentioned to us that if the government would not be borrowing locally, the domestic borrowing will have a lot of money, of course, in circulation for the startups and the SMEs to borrow money locally and do business. So that is so impressive, probably because of the interest of time. Mr. Chamba, I don't know what you could be having, probably final remarks for the citizens as we wind up this discussion.
What I would want to tell the citizens of this great country of ours is that in as much as I empathize and sympathize with us, the feeling like we are getting exposed to high cost of living, in the short run, this is the best way that our economy can get back on track. What the president has done is that he has just taken us back on rails of a train that had veered off the road. Because when everybody now start working and everybody within the value chain of petroleum distribution start getting something, everybody, it will be a win-win for everybody. But the lie of a subsidy that somebody is getting money and they are not, unless people are getting grants from outside, money that we don't need to pay back, then the subsidy theory was a zero-sum game. It is getting money from one pocket and putting it to the other pocket, and while at it, killing a whole spectrum of the SMEs value chain. So brace yourself and expect good tidings. We expect that the markets are responding and everything is going to be all right if everybody takes their rightful position without interest of making others like the way the business has been squeezed out of the market in a deliberate manner. Right. So Kenyans, it's gonna be all right. I can authoritatively say that if we stay on the course.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin Chomba, for those great insights. And of course, now Kenyans have an understanding of what has happened and what to expect. And as you have just said, lowering the cost of living is not a switch. So Kenyans should not start bickering, saying that we thought the bottom up was going to save us, but is getting us into the valley. So it's not a switch. Let us just brace ourselves for a very short while, but we shall be having the good and the best life we expected from this government. A very short break, coming back with more.